Hey everyone, I want to thank you for coming to the Logos Mentality today. I want to take a brief moment to recap the last 2 weeks before we jump into this new one. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about the discipline of decision. We understand that just to even make a decision to begin with starts with a decision. So before we can build up a discipline of making good, healthy decisions or just strong decisions, some decisions just have to be made. And quite often we can get stuck in a path of just not making decisions and just assume that that season or that time or that opportunity will just either make its own decision, which it won't, or the decision will get easier, and it doesn't as well. So that's first and foremost. We built on that by talking about not being reactors, but being responders. As we talked about in that group meeting, that reactors have no authority and no power when it comes to their actions, because they've obligated that or abdicated it all the way over to the circumstance, the environment, an individual, stress. And that's just not a good place to be. We don't want to be reactors. This isn't baseball. Whenever I was in college and they wanted to work on your reaction skills. That's not what we want to do in our daily life when it comes to stressful circumstances. We don't want to be reacting to that type of environment. We want to build up a response in advance to these circumstances, to these people. When people cut you off on the road, like I'm sure it happens every day, guilty of being one of those people from time to time. We don't want to be reactionary to that individual or to that circumstance. We want to be able to respond in a way that's healthy. If you're faith-based, like I am, that brings glory to God. And then this week we're going to talk about another heavy topic. And again, all this stems from walking out your purpose. Each one of us is created on purpose with a purpose. You have a meaning. You have a specific vision or dream that you're supposed to be here to fulfill. Your dream, your mission, your purpose is never about you. It's always about you fulfilling somebody else's role for that day, whether it's just being a blessing, whether it's speaking encouraging words, whether it's your specific action is the conduit that they need to be able to be successful. God made us to be together on purpose. And in these times, in light of what's going on, it's more reason than ever that if you're on the fence from walking out your purpose, if you haven't made that decision, you haven't made the decision to be a responder, if you're still reacting to those around you, you have the opportunity today to be a responder, to make the decision. What we're going to talk about today is anxiety. Anxiety, number one, is unhealthy. But again, faith-based, this anxiety is a sin. It is based in pride, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to read 2 scriptures to you. Both of them are pretty heavy. First one is Revelation 21:8. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the despicable, the murderers, the perverts, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all deceivers, they will find their place in the lake of fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Revelation 21:8. Now, if you read that backwards again, maybe some of you weren't listening correctly or all the way through, but let's read it backwards. So we understand that each one of these is going to go to hell. That's what the lake of fire is. So deceivers, all the deceivers. Okay, well, Jesus called Satan the deceiver. So I think we're all in agreement that all deceivers, including Satan, are going to go to hell. Okay. Idolaters, okay, those who are worshiping other gods. Makes sense. Sorcerers, those who are attempting to utilize other gods' abilities. Perverts, okay, I think we've all maybe been there, had a thought. Deceivers, okay, now I think we've all been deceptive at some point. So murderers, okay, now we're back on the right track. You see how we assign these? Despicable, faithless, think we've all had a despicable thing or said a despicable thing or done something despicable. Faithless. We've all been faithless at one point in time. We didn't walk out of our into this world fully activated in our faith. But how about the first one, cowardly? Have you ever backed down from a circumstance? Have you ever felt anxious? Have you ever felt stressful? Have you ever chose not to do something for fear of what would happen? That's what this is talking about right here. And you say, how is that the same as murdering? How is that the same as being a deceiver? Again, anxiety is built on pride. We're going to jump into a little bit more on that. 1 Peter 5:7 says, pour out all your worries and stress upon him, that him being Jesus, and leave them there, for he always tenderly cares for you. So for Jesus to tenderly care for you, you have to pour out your worries and your stress. All of your worry, all of your anxiety, all of your stress, everything that would rock your boat, you have to pour it out and leave them there. I think we most notably know this verse by the NIV that says, cast your cares upon the Lord because he cares for you. Well, that phrase, cast your cares, is most best represented as being said, casting with no intent of picking back up. I know that I used to think of casting, I'm an outdoorsy guy, so fishing, and so I thought casting, so I'm just going to chunk, this, whatever it is, as far out as I can. Well, the problem with that is that I'm attached to it, and I can reel it back in if I want to. That's the exact opposite of what this is talking about. It's telling us to cast it, whatever it is, as much as it is, as frequently as they come, but to cast it with no intent of picking back up. Many times before I've thought about, God, why? Why am I so worried? Why am I so stressed out or have anxiety? And it's because I cared more about what that person or what the outcome of that circumstance than I did on me walking out whatever God had asked me to do. Whether it's go talk to somebody and feeling, God, what if they turn me down? What if they say no thanks? Or what if they aren't interested? Or what if they escalate the situation? We go worst case scenario. What if I go to tell them about Jesus and they call the cops? And it's just, our mind goes crazy, as we're being deceived. And we put our faith in that fear. And when we do so, it's pride that comes in and say, I know what's best for me. I know what's the best decision that I should make. And so I'm going to choose what I want to do. That's very prideful. I know many times, I know I've thought this, and I've talked to many people who have, and you ask God, when are you going to take this away? Or when are you going to do something with this stress or with this anxiety? It's very simple. God's saying, I've already done something with it. I asked you to leave it right here so that I could care for you, but you keep picking it back up. I just encourage you to cast it down today with no intent of picking it back up, to receive the full care. A great analogy I heard by a scholar named Timothy Keller. He talked about God is giving us, he's already given a beautiful gift. Obviously we get salvation, but he's given us victory and peace and joy and so many of these attributes to the fullest. I've given you this gift, this present, and we're so concerned about the wrapping paper or what color bow is on it. God, I didn't get a blue Yankees bow on mine, so I'm not opening it. It's not sufficient. It's pretty sad. Whenever I think about that in my own life when I was dealing with certain circumstances. But worrying always stems from being overconfident. You have to humble ourselves. I'll give you two examples. When somebody says, maybe they're in church, or maybe you're speaking with them and you're talking to them, they say, you know what, that's a great idea, Jordan. I do need to get things set right in my life, and my priorities are way out of whack. But you know what? I've done a lot of bad stuff. And so I just, I don't think I don't think he can cover this one. You understand how much pride is in there to tell God that your sacrifice, that your gift isn't good enough, that it doesn't cover my sin. What I've done is too great. It covers everybody else in the world. It covers, just not me. There's a lot of pride in there. There's the complete opposite, though, that says, you know what? Jesus' sacrifice was tremendous. It's amazing. And he did. He covered all my sin. But I owe him something. So, you know what? Every day I owe him. I owe him as much as I can give him. And you know what? If I don't do it that day, I didn't earn it. You know what? I have to do it. That also contains a large amount of pride, to think that we could ever pay him back for anything that he's ever done for us. I want to shift over to discussing the realization of a dream. We're talking about, again, decisions. 2 weeks ago, we talked about responding last week. We talked about anxiety. If you haven't gotten the hint, many of us are sitting on the couch. We're stuck in apathy or complacency, and we're not making decisions, and we're not responding. We're choosing to be reactors. Or maybe we're sitting here in the corner with too much anxiety or too much stress. Maybe, quite frankly, we're just a coward who doesn't have faith that God will fulfill the tug on our hearts. It reminds me of that scripture of, why would Jesus is telling, why would I give, if you could give a gift to your son, if you give good gifts to your son, wouldn't I give you something even better? And then he gives an example. Does a man, or does a father give his son, when the son asks for a piece of bread or fish, does he give him a snake? I just wonder if we think about that sometimes. If we get tugged in our heart and get stirred, I should go talk to this person. Do you think God would stir us to just go watch us fail on purpose? Do we think he's just in heaven, just having a knee-slapping laugh and just bent over, giggling, thinking it's the funniest thing that we obeyed him and he sent us right in there? No. I think we're being deceived. We're being cowardly by not stepping up to that plate. We've been talking about Joseph the last few weeks, and just want to kind of put a little bit of a bow on this. And so there's a few notes from the devotionals I've been reading this week. And it says, one thing that I know is that dreams restore people. Dreams help people pull themselves out of the ditch. Dreams help us get up every morning and keep us awake at night about what could be and what should be in the world around us and what we can do about it. Joseph's dream took a long time to come to pass. Scholars say it took anywhere between 20 to 25 years from the time that he received the dream to the time that he saw it fulfilled. The formula, though, isn't just time. If that was the case, then every dream, every mission, every purpose that was given would be fulfilled over time. And we know that's inaccurate. So I've given the stats before to this group, is that less than 10% of the entire world's population knows what their purpose is. Less than 1% of that actually walk out their purpose. It has nothing to do with time. There can be an opportunity that you let sit there that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go talk to your neighbor. I know that I'm supposed to say something to my wife, or to a sibling, or to a child. And I just assume time will fix it, and time will heal all wounds, or time will do what it's supposed to do, and time doesn't. It's one piece of the puzzle. Too many of us, and I know that I'm in part of the us on this. There was Tim Keller shared an analogy of a woman who had the tug on her heart. She knew she was supposed to say something to her husband, but she never did. She thought, I didn't want to rock the boat. She felt she had the same tug and thought, hey, my neighbor's sick over here and I should go talk to him. I never did. She had an older son, and he wouldn't stop disobeying. Thought, hey, I should really discipline. I should get real firm, but you know what? I don't want to make things worse. So she never did anything. She also had a daughter who was beginning to act rebellious and wanted to curb that attitude and to curb that mentality, but figured, I don't want to push her over the edge. So she didn't say anything. Well, her neighbor died. Her husband left. Her son continued to act out and is now in jail. And her daughter's pregnant. She had an opportunity to say something into all those things. Would it have changed one or all of those things? We don't know. But I do know that by doing nothing, change nothing. The time is not the sole contributor. Again, it's time plus the process plus growth. Time is going to move forward one way or another. What about you? Are you going to make that choice today to move, to stand up, to try something different? I heard a great saying this week of a man who was making bad decisions for a very long time, 10 or 15 years. And he had a friend who showed up. And this friend had been around this gentleman for several years. And he showed up at his door. And the guy answered the door and just assumed he was going to get the same response he's been getting. And the gentleman said to him, let's try something different today. Let's make good decisions. Our part to play in the process, we're not in control over time. We're not in control of the process, but we are in charge over our growth. I am 100% in charge of if I choose to grow or if I don't grow. I have that choice. Just like the parable of the talents, where the master left the 3 servants 5 talents and 2 talents and 1 talent. I have a choice. What am I going to do with that talent? God has given me a purpose. He's given me a meaning. He's given me a vision, a dream for my life. He's given me multiple. Some of them are for my family. Some of it is for me. Some of it's for business. He's given me these, and it's my job to be cultivated and to be willing to grow. Now, just like in the parable of the talents, if I choose not to, that dream, that purpose, that mission no longer will belong to me. How many authors had a wonderful idea for a book, but thought for decades that nobody would read it. Nobody would read it. Turns out somebody else wrote the book and they did read it. If we wait too long, our purpose, our meaning will get donated to somebody else who's willing to do what God asked him to do. The process of the dream is what helps us move forward to growth and to see our dream happen. If you attend this group live, then you'll hear me talk and you'll hear me share that we have to set the hook deep down in. That way every morning, irregardless of what your circumstances are, that hook will tug on you. You'll have no other cause for action but to walk out your purpose. That dream, that mission, that meaning is so powerful. And if you harness it right, and if you clarify it, it will drive you every day to fulfill your part in this big cosmic world that we live in. Now, walking out your dream does come with benefits. Some of it is here on this world. And again, I'm reiterating it, that it's not why we walk out our purpose. But God will not be outgifted. If you give him your life, he will give it back to you better than what you gave it to him. Some of that comes with prosperity or success or wealth. But that is not why we walk out our gift. That's not why we submit. And if that's the reason, then ultimately you won't make it, because that's not a good enough reason. eventually you'll come to grips with money is not worth everyday sacrifice. Whatever the redemption that I'm waiting for isn't worth it because the sacrifice isn't strong. So towards the end of Genesis and towards the end of Joseph's story, he's on a collision course to see his family. He doesn't know he's going to see it. They don't know he's going to see him. But over that 25-year period, Joseph was filled with grace. He was a man of character and integrity. I know that each of us say, man, I've learned my lesson. It's been 3 months or 6 months or 2 years. I would handle the circumstance differently. Well, God knew that Joseph could not handle this circumstance unless this amount of time had passed. Not only before the sake of his family. I mean, if he was resentful and bitter, he could have told Pharaoh to kill all of them. And then there would be no children of Israel. Or he could have gotten to the place of authority too early and it would have been too prideful. And then whenever a famine came, like it was going to come irregardless, that maybe he would have kept things to himself and he wouldn't have been a good steward. So he had to learn all the lessons so that he could walk out everything God was asking him to do. He didn't respond with revenge. Again, we talked about that last week. He responded. He didn't react in revenge, or more frankly, but he responded with heartbreaking and with weeping. That was a decision he made. It was a decision, a strong decision. The goal of a God-given dream is about connecting others to God through a relationship with Jesus. If our dream is solely about us, it's not a big dream, and it's not a God dream. As we talked about 2 weeks ago with Elijah and Elisha, when Elisha chose to walk out his God-given purpose and to make that choice and to make that decision, everyone in his community was blessed. He ripped apart the plow, sacrificed the oxen, and everyone in the town reaped the benefits of him walking out his purpose. I encourage you today to allow those around you to reap the benefits of you walking out your purpose. Your purpose is meant to fill the need of those around you. You are the missing puzzle piece to somebody's life, to somebody's maybe day, to somebody's conversation. You are it. I encourage you to go find that person, to go find that situation. You know what? Not every time does your puzzle piece exactly fit. Not every time are they ready to receive your puzzle piece. But every time you ask, every time you step out, your faith grows. Your obedience grows. Your trust grows. There's not a downside to any of it at all. I'm rooting for you guys. I am on your team. And most importantly, I'm for you.